I saw one of the most incredible interviews not too long ago from Charles Barkley talking about the one mentor in the NBA that completely turned his career around. Hey, David Essel here. We love to share stories about success, individuals that have maybe been trained, I'll say in one way or another, on how to look for success and ask for success. And there are others of us that think that we just need to do it all on our own. Well, I've got a story today about the all-star Charles Barkley, NBA all-star TV analyst. The guy's amazing. Some people don't care for him because he's so in our faces. I think he's incredible. I just love his sense of humor and everything else. But he did this interview that was so powerful. And it was powerful to me for several reasons. And by the way, you're tuned into David Essel Live, America's most positive podcast in the galaxy. We're helping Americans, the world to heal. Everything is at buzzsprout.com. Check us out. Thousands of hours of interviews from my SiriusXM days, as well as all of these podcasts we're doing now are just quick hitting tips to help you get to that next level in life. And so, we wrote the book, as most of you know, Mental Mastery and Maximum Performance for Professional Athletes. I have a copy of it, always have a copy of it right here. If it's not here, it's in my back pocket, front pocket, shirt pocket. I've got them all over the place. But anyway, we wrote the book because we saw that there was this huge need for professional athletes to get more assistance, more help, more accountability in every area of their life, including mentorship, including getting people that are bigger, better, smarter, and having them listen to them, right? So Charles Barkley is talking about his guy, this mentor that turned him around. Now, here's something fascinating. The guy that he's talking about is someone that I open up my book on and give a tribute to this individual who I met when I was 15 years of age. And when I met him at 15, he was 17. And at 18 years of age, he would enter what was called the American Basketball Association, the ABA, before he transferred to the NBA to become one of the most powerful forwards, centers the league has ever seen. And I dedicated this book, part of the book I dedicated and wrote the tribute to Moses Malone, who's the individual that I met when I was 15. This skinny, really tall kid getting out of a car at a basketball camp with a torn, dirty t-shirt, shorts that were held up by a safety pin, laces on his shoes that could barely keep his worn-out basketball shoes on his feet. And everyone at the camp is going, who is this? And then that night, we found out who this was. Moses Malone, at 17, was asked to take on Dave Bing. Dave Bing was one of the greatest guards that ever played in the NBA. It was Dave Bing's camp, and Dave Bing challenged him to a one-on-one game in front of 300 campers. We were going nuts. And Moses Malone held his own at 17 with an NBA All-Star. It was incredible to see. Now let's bring in Charles Barkley. I'm watching this interview the other day with Charles Barkley, and the interviewer is saying, now, when you entered the NBA, was there a mentor? Was there someone that really got you going and helped you immensely? And Charles Barkley has this big smile, and he shakes his head, and he goes, yeah. He said, but it's a little different. And the reporter goes, well, who was it? Who was your mentor? And he says, Moses Malone. And immediately, of course, my ears pop up, right? Because I love Moses Malone. Moses Malone had a 50-point game with 30 rebounds, for God's sake. So many people don't remember. He died in 2015, way too young. He's about my age. I wish he was still here. He was one of the most dominant forward centers the NBA has seen. The number of 20-plus rebound games is astronomical. 2 MVPs. Most valuable players. I mean, the guy's amazing. And here's Charles Barkley talking about an idol of mine who was a mentor of Charles. And he says, well, what was it like, meeting Moses? He said, well, it wasn't all that easy. He goes, the first time I came in and met Moses Malone, I was at 290 pounds. And I came in and I said, Moses, great to meet you. And he looked at me and he goes, you're fat, you're lazy, and you're not going to make it as an all-star in this league. And he turned around and walked away. And Charles said, I can't believe it. First time I meet this guy, and he has this kind of an attitude. So he said, Charles goes, well, all right, I'll do what he says. I lost 20 pounds. And he said, when I finally lost 20 pounds, I went from 290 to 270. I came and said, Moses, what do you think? And Moses looked at me and he said, you're too fat. You're too lazy. You're never going to make it as an all-star. Lose another 20 pounds. And he walked away. And Charles is going, this is my introduction to one of the greatest players the NBA has ever seen. And the guy is just telling me that I'm going to be fat, lazy, slow. I'll never make it. So I lost another 20 pounds. And I saw him at 250. And Moses Malone came up to me and looked at me and he goes, You're too light. Go to 260 and stay there. And he turned around and walked away. When I'm watching that, like, I'm in awe for two reasons. One, many of our greatest teachers in life, we do not necessarily care for at first. Our parents are many times great examples. I remember waking up at 30 years of age and calling my mother and father and telling them that I had been a very difficult child. I was very difficult. Even probably conception probably was hard. And that's a joke. Anyway, I believe that it was just a very difficult thing for my mom and dad to go through, to have to raise me for all those years. But at 30, oh my God, I called them and I said, 90% of what you tried to teach me was accurate. And all I did was push back and fight and argue. But 90% of what you taught me was accurate. Now, I couldn't say that at 15, 16, 17, or 18. It took a number of years for me to see the reality. And I think it's the same probably for Charles Barkley and for others. We have tough individuals, tough bosses, tough coaches in our life. I write about in my book, my basketball coach, first basketball coach in high school, freshman and sophomore year, Larry Miller. Oh my God, I couldn't stand the guy. He was having me constantly, I was being penalized for doing something wrong. I wasn't sliding right on defense. I wasn't hustling enough. I was always running lines. I was always being penalized, right? But he drilled in me the importance of defense. I couldn't stand Larry Miller. And yet, when I transferred to a high school for my final 2 years, the very first thing Dale Hesser, my coach, says is, who the hell taught you to play defense like that? When I went as a walk-on at Syracuse University, very first thing the guys asked me is that, who taught you how to take offensive charges like that? Who taught you how to play defense like that? Who taught you how to pass like that? It was all freaking Larry Miller. And yet, while I was with Larry Miller, I couldn't stand him because I didn't see the value of the constructive criticism. And when Charles Barkley said that about Moses Malone, my hat went off to Charles for him to be willing to admit that story, and it also made me reflect on myself and how I've pushed back. How about you? Do you have teachers, maybe parents, a partner that's trying to teach you? Maybe your children are trying to teach you something if they're older. And are you resisting? Are you pushing back? Do you have a boss that's pushing you really hard because they want to get the most out of you? Do you have a teacher that's pushing you really hard because they know you can do better? Do you have a coach who's pushing you really hard because they know there's more in you that you're not even seeing in yourself? Do you see what I'm saying? Let's follow what Charles Barkley said. He did everything his mentor said, and it worked. And he went on to become an NBA All-Star. I want the same for you to happen, whether you're an athlete or not. And if I can assist you at all, please contact me at talkdavid.com. And don't forget, you can get the free Audible of our brand new book. Yes, the Audible is very, very free. All capital letters free at talkdavid.com. Get the Audible free there. You can buy the book at amazon.com. If you're an athlete and you need some help, if you're the parent of an athlete that needs some help with confidence or whatever it might be, you're a coach and you have athletes that need some help, oh my God, reach out to me at talkdavid.com. We're here to do one thing, to help you get to the next level of sport and life. Until we meet again, have an incredible day. I'm David Essel.